I use AI a lot, and when I do, I often feel like, you know what, that doesn't feel right to me, like what's coming back out. So I'll just say, hmm. So I always put in there. I don't know why. Like I'm having this like conversation.
Welcome to the Sold Out Sales Podcast, the podcast that will equip both the seasoned sales professional and the more reluctant seller with mindset shifts and strategies needed to succeed in a competitive marketplace. Welcome to the Sold Out Sales Podcast. It is always my pleasure and honor to be able to hang out with you all at least once a week. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing and for subscribing. I have been overwhelmed by the love I've been getting from this community, so thank you so much. Today, we get to have more of Kelsey Hunt. If you've heard that episode, you already know what a gem she is. If you haven't heard it, go back and listen to it. We'll put the episode number and put a link in the show notes because I don't remember which episode it was, but it's not been that long ago. But I've had the opportunity since that last episode to spend some days in person with Kelsey. She came to our sales retreat just last week and we got a chance to hang out. So I am even more excited to have Kelsey Hunt with us today. So I'm going to let her introduce herself. And Kelsey, one thing that we don't know about you that you didn't share in the last podcast or during the retreat. Go for it.
Okay. Yes, I told you I was thinking about this. Okay, cool. My name is Kelsey Hunt, and I am a digital strategist for online coaches and course creators. And I own a boutique agency called Truly Media, where we help coaches scale to 7 figures and beyond. Something interesting about me, I think last time I shared that I was really into tennis, so I'm not going to share that again. Other things that I'm really into, I think another one of my happy places is in the kitchen. From an Italian family, cooking is like definitely part of our DNA. It's how we bond as a family, and I have definitely tried to carry that through with my family too. So anytime I need to relax, head to the kitchen.
You know what? We are cut from the same cloth. Same. I love it. I literally start planning my Thanksgiving dinner like now. I am like that kind of cook. I am so serious. It's like, oh, I'm going to make those potatoes I saw on Instagram. You know, I literally am like, it's like my happy place. So it's good to know. I didn't know that.
Yes. A little glass of wine, some good music, and just start cooking.
Yeah, and for me, it's like I get my coffee and I'm just like, ooh, it's good. Turn some music on.
Yes.
Well, Kelsey, something that I really enjoyed about our time together. So for those of you all who don't know, Kelsey came and actually was a guest speaker at our Sold Out Sales retreat, which happens once a quarter. And the ladies who were there were blown away. They loved what you did. You did some phenomenal magic, giving us like formulas for creating messaging. It was phenomenal. But the thing that I really took away was how you helped us to incorporate storytelling into the way that we communicate. So I want to hear more about it. And I'd love for you, I'm just going to literally let you riff. Just talk to us about how important do you believe storytelling is to sales? And what's the mistake people are making? Because I think people think they're telling stories, but I don't know that they are. So what's your thought about storytelling with sales?
Okay, I'm going to answer your question, but I just kind of want to give a little background on me first.
Yeah.
Because I think that will sort of help inform where I'm coming from in terms of story.
For sure.
So before I got into the online space, I was a soap opera producer for 16 years. So literally my job was to tell story every single day for years and years. And one of soap opera's superpowers is that they get people to tune in day after day, year after year, generation after generation with story that maybe doesn't move as quick as we're used to in today's fast-paced media landscape that we live in. But there is something about the story that soap operas tell that engages people and connects them, and really gets them to tune in multiple times. And that is so hard to do in marketing, even just to get people to recognize who you are, even just to know your brand. So started really thinking when I started working with clients, how can I break through this crazy media landscape that we live in? Because the average person gets 6,000 to 10,000 marketing messages a day. And that is so incredibly hard to break through. Um, and so when I first came into the online landscape, I tried all of the different formulas that you read about, like the problem, agitate, solve, talk to pain points. And we talked about that, I think, the first time I was on here. And that's fine, but it was super unpredictable, right? So I never really knew if it was going to be successful or not. I felt very, I just sort of felt like it was kind of a shot in the dark sometimes, crossing my fingers, hoping that, we broke through the noise. And then it finally dawned on me that why don't I tell story the way that I did for years and years when I worked in television? And soap operas are a little bit brilliant in the way that they tell story. They tell it very simply, and it's really easy to connect with, and it's really easy to remember. So, um, I started really thinking about this and just the idea of story itself in marketing. I mean, just for years and generation, history was passed down through story. Like we are all human beings. We are hardwired for narrative. That's what we want. That's what we crave. And when you engage in a story, your brain actually releases oxytocin and you create a trust bond with that person that you are listening to their story or sharing that story with. And I think that's where soap operas really excel. Like people create bonds with the characters and they want to know what happens with them, right? Year after year.
Yeah.
So I really started thinking like, how could I start bringing story into this? Because you create this bond with like your prospective clients, right? And that ultimately builds your community. And isn't that really what we're all trying to do in this online space? Is to create a community of engaged prospects, right? Um, and when you can tell story, you can create that emotional attachment with people. And what that also does is it improves memory of who you are, and they can recall who you are a lot faster than if you're just talking at them, pitch, pitch, pitch. So using story has really, we've been able to really help our clients stand out in a crowded, saturated actually marketplace with story. Um, so hopefully that answers your
Yeah,
question.
it definitely does. And I know you're not going to say this, so I'm going to say it just so y'all know. Not only was she a soap opera writer, she actually got one Emmy, so she is like legit.
It was actually a producer, not a writer, but
Okay,
yes,
my bad,
we do a
producer.
fair, yeah, that's fine. It's fine. We
But
do a fair amount of that.
the thing that I found really interesting though, it's one thing to hear that, on a podcast, it's one thing to read it on the website, but to be in the room with you and to see how you really put that into practice, I thought was really genius. So what do you think? Because I still think, Kelsey, and you tell me if you think differently, that a lot of marketers, a lot of business owners who are doing their own marketing, who are really trying to stand out, are still making some mistakes around what they think storytelling is. And what do you think those errors might be? And I mean, it's not no shade, no disrespect, because I think we're all just trying to do the best we know how to do, right? But I found in listening to you share with us, there were just some different nuances that really made it feel very genuine. It didn't feel like it was constructed as a sales pitch that looked like a story, opposed to
Mm-hmm.
really, drawing someone in and showing them how to connect. So where do you feel like those errors are, and what could we do to really shift the way that we're showing up and telling stories as part of attracting ideal clients?
Yeah, I think sometimes when people, especially if like they're doing their own marketing, think about story is it has to be their story.
Yeah,
So how do I, and then after that, they don't use story, or maybe they use a client story. And
right,
those are all great and they actually work really, really well. But in marketing, when you're pitching, like if you want to like connect with somebody instead of pitching at them, you need to talk, like get them to imagine themselves in the story, right?
yeah,
And I think that is really the sort of tweak that we're taking inside of our agency is yes, we still tell our client stories, we still tell review stories, and those are great. But if we can put the prospect in the seat of that ad where they are connecting with what we're talking about because it's a personal experience that they're having, all of a sudden that connection becomes so much more powerful. So we talked about in the first episode that I was on about really getting that messaging strategy, honing that in, not just talking directly at pain points, right? Because lots of people, we talked about that pretty in depth. People can be happy in their pain. That doesn't mean they're going to take action to make a change, but really finding those catalysts or those trigger moments within your niche that drives people to action. And when you find that and you can turn that into a story where they are the main character, so second person, we're talking you when you're writing those, all of a sudden there's a connection that is built. Like I said, like that oxytocin, that emotion, that bond becomes just a lot easier to make, and they connect with you immediately and they remember you and they just realize that you are their person. And so that's really what we're trying to do. And then we use very simple story formats. So in soap operas, like I said, they use a very simple traditional story structure, which actually also is what people expect. Like they don't even realize that they're expecting this structure in a story. And so it's like an inciting incident, rising tension, climax with a turning point, and a resolution. And so if you can take that high intent messaging formula that we talked about in episode 1 and plug those things into this basic, simple 4-part story format, the inciting incident is your catalyst or your trigger moment. Your pain points cause tension, so you use those as your rising tension. The climax or the turning point is really your solution, and the resolution is what they can expect after they've successfully worked with you.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So when someone comes to work with you, Kelsey, and they're hearing this for the first time. And, I think about like my kids who are in their 20s and 30s, they're not familiar with soap operas. We watched them growing
Right.
up. They don't, it's not quite the same as it was when some of us were coming up. And, when you deal with someone who's maybe unfamiliar with the history that you have, but they still want to, really incorporate the storytelling model into their business. What are some of the ways that you help them to really resonate and understand how they can be the main character while drawing in people who will have that emotional response to the way that they're communicating?
Well, I think research really helps, but I will say, even if they don't watch soap operas, we still engage in story in almost everything that we're consuming. So reality television is just a modern day soap opera, really. And, influencers and people on YouTube, I mean, they're still telling some type of story, the ones that are really big. It may just be, you have to kind of think critically about what you're watching. And that's like a really interesting exercise too, that I will have my clients do, is like, okay, whatever you like to watch, just like critically think about the story. Like, what is that inciting incident? When do things take a turn? And because that just ultimately happens when you're consuming any sort of entertainment, but you just need to be able to critically think about it. And so it could be soap operas or it could be reality television, but they are consuming story. And then I think doing that research where you really understand your prospect inside and out in terms of like, what are those triggers? What are the emotions they experience with those triggers? And what is the key language that they use around those triggers? That can really help inform your writing in terms of how to tell a story. And I can show you an example if
Yeah,
that's interesting.
I would love to actually.
Um,
Yeah.
so I think this is a client of ours, and her niche is she works with empty nesting moms
Mm-hmm.
when their kids leave the house, they go off to school, and all of a sudden they don't feel like their purpose as mom anymore. They're sort of like
Yeah.
trying to figure out what's next.
Right.
So in our research for her, realized that a catalyst moment that people have, a lot of women have, is um like they'll even say like, I didn't even recognize myself. I don't even recognize myself in the mirror. Like I just don't even know who I am anymore. Right.
Right.
So we decided to write an ad around this, a story ad around this. So that just gives you a little bit of like sampling of who this was for. So You caught a glimpse of yourself in the bathroom mirror. The woman staring back at you looked familiar, but somehow foreign, like an old friend you barely recognized anymore. Somewhere between carpools and careers, between caring for aging parents and growing children, between all the roles you've juggled, you disappeared. Do you know what brings you joy anymore? That's another pain point. What gives you that spark? Pain point. Do you remember what makes you you? This mirror moment isn't a midlife crisis, it's your wake up call to reclaim your authentic self. My new live workshop, The Confidence Code, is the launching pad to your journey back to yourself. So, see how we introduce that as that turning point. Yeah, it's your journey back to yourself. And then the resolution, these 3 powerful days will help you shed the limiting beliefs that have disconnected you from your essence, rediscovered what brings you genuine joy and fulfillment, reconnect with the woman you were always meant to be, recognize yourself again in the mirror.
Oh my
So it's
God.
like pulling that full circle.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. I was literally going, I wish they could see an example of what this really looks like. So, look, nobody else is sharing this kind of stuff on the podcast. So, thank you so much for sharing that and helping us to get a glimpse of what it really looks like. Because I still was feeling like people, they don't always. They think a story is once upon a time that, they don't realize that they're just telling their story in a way that where people can literally connect and see themselves in that story as well. So brilliant, fantastic. Yeah. Thank you for sure.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, you're just basically echoing their experiences to them and how you can help them.
I love that so much. So what are you seeing that is changing in the way people are communicating? Not only like stories like you're talking about right now, but I know you shared with us like some really cool tips and tricks that we're using like with AI and things of that nature. What other things do you feel like are changing in the way that we're able to really draw people in, show up, stand out, and authentically connect with an audience that, that really needs what we have to offer?
Well, I say use AI. Let AI help you, especially with the research, especially figuring out those catalyst moments, those triggers, those emotions, that key language. Don't be afraid to use that. And then ask AI, okay, now I have this research, write some stories for me using in the second person, using X catalyst with Y pain points, and my product is the resolution, the turning point in the resolution. And so I think don't be afraid to use AI to help you make those connections, because listen, as entrepreneurs and business owners, and everybody is so slammed busy. So the idea sometimes of sitting down and writing for your own business can be super, super overwhelming. And like, maybe that's just not your jam, like storytelling is not necessarily your jam, writing ads or writing social posts, but don't be afraid to let AI help you with that.
Very good. You are able to come up with some amazing like prompts. And although you don't necessarily need to share all of the genius that you bring to the table, they can have a conversation with you. But you said something that I thought was really just so profound, but so simple about just telling it what you want help with. I think that people are kind of either unsure or maybe even afraid of how they're supposed to communicate with a tool like AI to really help them to come up with what they're trying to accomplish. Can you kind of explain the simplicity of how you're using those prompts and how you're helping your clients to really do this over and over again?
Yeah, I mean, we just have some prompts that we use kind of as a starting point. And we tell, first of all, I would highly suggest using a regenerative AI program. I know you like Jasper, Tish, and I use Claude in our agency now. I just have Claude set up. I don't really, whatever you guys like to use.
Right.
It's great because it gets to know you. It knows your brand voice. It remembers your previous searches. So you're not starting at zero every single time you go in there.
Right.
But I use AI a lot. And when I do, I often feel like, you know what, that doesn't feel right to me, like what's coming back out. So I'll just say, So I always put in there.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like I'm having this like conversation. That doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah.
Are you sure it's not, like, this feels like this is more on track? And sometimes it'll say to me, no, I was right. Sometimes it'll say, no, you're right. Let me look into that a little bit more. So I think don't just I don't know if this is answering your question.
Oh, you're
but I just
definitely
don't
answering
take
my
it
question for sure. Yes.
yeah, I just don't take it at face value. Like sometimes you just got to go a little bit deeper and just make sure that it makes sense for your business, for your product, and for your clients. Because ultimately you do know your clients. Um, but I think you can use it to get to know them better. And I also think the best when you are really niched. So if you have a business that is serving like multiple niches, I would do this separately for each particular niche, or pick a niche that like is your favorite client and just go that way.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, I think that we're using frequently AI the way we do a Google search, and it's not the same. Like, it sounds more
Mm-hmm.
to me, and I've learned this myself. It's like almost like you're having a conversation with, someone who has the solution that you can actually utilize, or at least can help you to come up with the solution. So I think that's the difference
Yeah.
that you showed us, at least, that it's like, go back and say, no, what about this? No, what I'm really looking for is this. And I love how it came out literally like, almost like it was just so beautiful. I normally would put things in and I'd have to go back and make it pretty myself. And you're like, oh no, go back and change that. And it'll come out exactly the way you want it to. So
Right.
I just love
Right. Oh
that
yeah. I always say, put this in a downloadable table for me that I
yeah,
can copy and paste.
yeah. I was
Yeah.
like, I did not know I could do that. I was not doing that. So that was a big game changer for me, for sure. Have you ever gone to a networking event or a conference and found that although you made great connections and you walked away with a stack full of business cards, you still didn't have a real plan for how to get a good return on your investment of both time and money? Well, let me tell you, having a networking and sales planner is a way for you to be more intentional about the way that you network.
Hey, I'm Susan Gladstein. I'm a functional nutrition and metabolism specialist, and I got connected with Tish because she is a rock star at systems and sales, and so I downloaded the planner to help get my brain organized as I went through a rebrand and launched a new course, and it's really helped me sort of get things out of my head and onto paper so that I can actually do follow-ups and not just rely on my brain. So far it's rocking my world and making my business systems that were non-existent actually have some sort of structure. So I love it. It's amazing. And I'm so grateful that our paths have crossed.
I've been working with sales professionals for almost 15 years. And one of the things that I find is that when they don't have a plan, they do nothing. They sit at their desk and wonder what to do. Well, with this networking and sales planner, you have profit producing activities for every single day of the week. It tells you where to go, what to say, even gives you prompts as to how to interact with people that you don't know. If you're an introvert and you feel like this isn't for you, I have already thought of you because I understand exactly how introverts think. So this gives you the tools enabling you to be armed with words, with language, so that you can make your networking more profitable.
Hey everyone, Rachel Neighbors here from solo401k.com. And I wanted to take a moment to talk about how awesome this sales networking planner is that Tish put out. So as you can see, I have it on my Remarkable. That's my sort of e-ink planner. And this sales planner has been so helpful for me. So I'm an old school pay-per-click marketer. I do Google ads, Facebook ads, and I know how to turn advertising into profit. But I didn't know how to turn network sales into profit. And when I met Tish, this woman literally wrote the book on networking called, Networking is Not a One-Night Stand. And she's put that experience and that energy and those valuable tips into this networking sales planner. And I just think that it can be so powerful for you in your business. I know it's been really helpful for me and mine. One thing that Tish told me is, Rachel, when you meet someone, put them into your planner and then follow up with them like they're a lead that you've generated on Google Ads or that you followed up with or that you've generated on Facebook. And that has been so helpful and transformative in my business. So thank you, Tish, for this awesome planner.
Maybe you don't even like networking. You say things like, networking doesn't work. Well, let me tell you, when you have a plan in place, you have some intention, and you have the tools to be able to make it work, you will see a different result. My new networking and sales planner is a game changer. It's the difference between you going to an event, wandering around and walking away without any purpose and without any new money, and walking into an event with a plan, with a purpose, and being able to convert new clients into your business. No one wants to feel inauthentic and pushy or even salesy when following up, so frequently we just don't do it at all. Well, the profitable follow-up formula, which is in the back of your networking and sales planner, will give you the tools and the language and the frequency with which you should be following up so that it feels very authentic, it feels genuine and natural both to you and to the people that you're reaching out to. Go to tishtimes.com/planner to get your digital or physical version of your planner.
Hi, my name is Cheryl James from CL James Consulting, and I just want to tell you a little bit about how awesome this networking sales planner is. I started intentionally networking at the beginning of this year, and I have been using my planner on a regular basis, not only to get inspiration, but to track the people I want to meet and the people I have met, and to make sure that I follow up with them from week to week. So if you are looking to network intentionally and hold yourself accountable, this planner is a must-have.
And once you get your planner, you'll also receive a video series that's going to teach you how to maximize your networking and how to use this planner to get the best result and best return on your investment of both time and money. If you are ready to stop wasting time with networking and turn your networking into a sales machine, then go to tishtimes.com/planner and grab your networking and sales planner. So let's switch gears just a little bit, Kelsey. I actually was doing another interview a little while ago with a marketer, and he was saying that, frequently as business owners, we do all this great work for our clients, and then there's still areas that we're just like, ooh, I should do that for my own business. What are the areas in your business that you are, really looking at and saying, okay, I need to really be applying these things for myself? Or what are some areas that you feel like, you know what, I'm still really trying to figure these things out as well? Because I think people look at us and they think we got it all figured out, and we know that's not the case. So talk to us about what are some of these things that you're really looking at and saying, I need to be putting these things on my business as well.
Goals. I mean, I learned that at your retreat, right? Like I so rarely look at my own goals for my own business. I work in my business so much and not on it. And I think really taking that time out to see, wow, what goals do I have? I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a small business. Like, what do I want out of this business? What kind of life do I want to live? And so making sure I'm stopping and asking myself those questions. So you had this awesome quarterly goal calculator that you showed us at the retreat. And I had that out today, Tish, and I was like looking at where I'm at because we just finished up April. And so I just really need to be more intentional about that kind of stuff.
I love that. It's interesting you use that word. We were talking about that earlier as well, about deciding what we want our business to give to us. So many times we only plan for what the business is going to do, opposed to the life that we want our business to be able to afford us. And so we plan based on that. So a guest that we had earlier was talking about how they want to be able to go away every summer and spend time abroad. And so their business is designed with that in mind. So I love that you brought that calculator up. It's like, okay, what do I need to be doing every single day to make sure that that's what the business is affording me, and putting things in place to make sure that that happens. And I think that the way that you are helping your clients, it's on some level is doing that. It's like, if I'm able to create the stories that draw the people and really help the people that I want to be able to help, then that's a form of that formula, if you ask me, in all honesty.
It is. It's a form of connection, for sure. Yeah,
for sure. What are some of the big things that you really want to accomplish over the course of the remainder of this year, Kelsey, as it pertains to the way that you are running business?
I want to work with more coaches that are not necessarily agency ready, because I think that there is a real gap there.
Yeah.
Coaches and course creators experience some success, but a lot of hustle with a lot of hustle to kind of get to that point.
Yeah.
Then they're ready for an agency, and it's such an investment. Like your ads are an investment, your agency done for you investment is a big financial investment. And it doesn't always like sometimes it ads and marketing on Meta or any ad platform is not necessarily an ATM. And that's, I think, what people feel like. It
Yeah.
takes a little bit of time to get your footing and get your conversion numbers and then start scaling. Like there's definitely a process to do that, but a lot of coaches don't have the financial resources to sustain that.
Yeah.
So when they hire an agency, so I love working with coaches that are really like just so passionate about what they do. They have a back end product they know that will help people. They've helped people, but they haven't figured out that marketing piece that'll get them over the hump. And so I really, really this year want to work with more coaches in that space.
I love that so much. Right now, for those people who are thinking, wow, I really want to run ads, I really want to get more eyes on the product or the service that I have to offer, I love that you can help us to create stories that really help those people, those people who are running ads or marketing in other ways to be able to have more conversion. What's the missing piece for that person who wants to run ads? Maybe they don't have a huge budget. Is there one thing that you would say, start here if you want to start running ads on Meta or any other platform that you might recommend? What's the first thing that they need to do?
Run a lead campaign. Build your own community of people that are perfect for your business. And you do that with that messaging, that storytelling, and that high intent messaging that we've talked about. And then you literally can run $10 a day on ads. Like you do not have to run thousands and thousands of dollars. Have that really great lead gen product that attracts those right people. And that's how you really start to build your business, your coaching business, and your community. And I actually think that's probably the most effective way to spend your ad dollars is creating that email list, that community of really like-minded people.
Wow, that's such a good tip. I hadn't even thought about that. To be honest with you, I really hadn't considered that because many times we're kind of selling into an open void, hoping that someone sees us without really building and developing the people that we want to be able to communicate with in the first place, and then taking that next step and then creating the ad campaign. That makes really good sense. So you're saying that something as small as $10 a day can make a difference for our business?
Huge.
Really?
Huge.
Huh. That's really interesting. And
and even
go ahead, please.
Oh, sorry. No, I was going to say, just going back to your calculator, I was looking at how many how many connections I need to make during a day to hit my sales goals, and it was like, well, how much ad spend is that for me? That's how I think about it.
Oh, so you need to add another column on that calculator and then show us how to figure that out. Because that's a missing piece. I would not have known that, and I wouldn't have even thought about that in all honesty. But that's a shortcut. That's a really good shortcut.
Yeah, it is a shortcut.
To make those connections. Wow. Kelsey, what do you think right now as far as in the landscape that we're in right now and in the marketplace, what do you think that business owners, especially entrepreneurs, small businesses that are really just kind of figuring out how to get in front of more people, what do you feel like we should be really focusing on above everything else? Should it be social? Should it be ads? Should it be getting in front of more people? What's the first thing or the most important thing in your opinion?
You need to get in front of more people?
To get in front of more people.
Just in general?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say ads because I think it's the fastest, what we just talked about, but you also get the most information back.
Oh,
and you get in front of your people faster. So it's just a feedback loop, I think, that you can learn so much from. And I'm going to say ads and get a really strong lead gen product.
I love that. Can you say more about that though? Because you'd mentioned, and I remember you said something about that during the retreat, that feedback loop and how we're able to actually gain more information and be more sophisticated in the way we're marketing. Can you say more about that? Because I don't think about that as far as I always think about the output, not necessarily the information that I'm getting back. Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a ton of KPIs that you can look at, but I think if you hone in on a few and you can find out if people are reading your messaging, if they're looking at your visuals, if they're landing on your landing page, how much that's costing you, how much it costs to get an email from somebody. And then you can use that if you keep track of some of these things down the road, and it doesn't have to be complicated. I mean, I think, listen, you can always go deeper into the rabbit hole, but if you just kind of say surface, you still get a ton of information. So, if you are, click-through rates are a really good thing. If you're running ads, if they're over 1, that means people are engaging with your images or your video. We have a custom KPI that we put into our Meta dashboards for all of our clients that shows us if people are reading their copy. And you can actually get that on our website. It's a freebie that we give if you want to install that in your Meta. But knowing if somebody's reading and connecting with your images and your content is huge, because you're also in ads, you're also targeting specific people, specific interests, specific demographics, and you don't get that information from organic. You'll get like, oh, people were engaging with my post, but you don't really know a lot about who they are. I always think getting people off of the socials into your email is by far the most valuable. So
I agree, yes.
It's a lot easier to do that with ads than it is on social.
Oh my God, thank you so much for sharing that. Because once again, those, people who don't run ads often or don't run ads at all don't know that there's more to it than just putting something out there, hoping and praying that people respond, that you can actually get enough data to be able to do it better even the next time and to be able to really track what's working and what's not working.
And then you start understanding what messaging really resonates. And so once you start honing in on that, like that mirror example that I talked to you about, we use that in multiple products for her in different ways. But if we reference that mirror moment, that copy, that ad is always going to do well. We know that now.
Very, very good. I love it. It's been such a pleasure to have you, Kelsey, here on the show. We will definitely, we will probably have an ongoing conversation because there's so much gems and so much good stuff that you are saying. And I want to make sure that the audience continues to learn from you. So thank you, Kelsey. We'll see you all next week on the Sold Out Sales Podcast. Thanks for listening to the Sold Out Sales Podcast. I would be so appreciative if you would show me and my amazing guests some love by leaving a review on your favorite podcasting platform. Also, go over to tishtimes.com/resource page and make sure you pick up your sales and networking handbook, especially for introverts. Also, I'd love to continue this conversation, so make sure you connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I'll see you back here next week.